You're listening to Commissioning Conversations, the podcast brought to you by Broadcast Intelligence. Hi, and welcome to Commissioning Conversations. I'm Alice Redman.
And I'm Heather Fallon.
And we are both researchers and journalists for the Commissioner Index.
And today we are joined by the third member of our team, Lizzie McDonald, to discuss the past few weeks in commissioning news.
So, Lizzie, we are so glad that you are finally on the podcast. You are the third member of our team, and we've been trying to get you on here for weeks, and now you are. But I thought maybe it'd be great to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So hi guys, I joined the Commissioner Index team in July of last year, so during the pandemic, woohoo. So I've been covering Sky, HBO Max, channels like that, and it's been very interesting actually to know, the different kind of things that people are commissioning on both sides of the world. And I haven't been able to go to any events, of course, but Real Screen was the most recent one, and that was a very interesting insight into what's happening in America, actually.
Yeah, I can't wait till we can take you out to events and get meeting people.
I can't wait.
But I know you had some interesting chats with the Discovery team and learned a lot about the upcoming Magnolia channel during the Real Screen time.
Yeah, so one of the speakers there was Sarah Cuban, and she works at Magnolia, and she's the VP of content. And so Magnolia was supposed to be a linear channel in its debut, but that's been pushed back to at least next year. But it is part of the Discovery Plus slate, so it's one of the verticals there. And yeah, she was talking about the different kind of things that they want for the channel. The way she was describing it, it was like a warm cup of milk. Like, it was just very inviting. They don't want heavily formatted shows. They want things that are very relatable, things that are about building community, about home and gardening and cooking. And it's actually a venture between Chip and Jo, and they are like chief creative officers, and they were like the big stars of Fixer Upper. So they've also got Fixer Upper, Welcome Home on the channel now as well. So yeah, it seems to be like a really cool venture, very easy to watch. A lot of escapist type shows, especially during the pandemic. It's going to be great to watch that instead of watching anything too issue-led. They want everything to be nice.
It's been such an interesting, because it's been such a long time coming, because I remember saying to you, I think it was about 2 years ago that they announced it at Real Screen there, and it was a really interesting thing, and it's been interesting to see how it's developed from that original announcement, because originally they just wanted the linear channel and there was no mention of SVOD, but now they've had to kind of change that, and I think a lot of that's probably pandemic related.
Yeah, so I mean, of course, so it's good to see networks and broadcasters being very adaptable, and with streaming pretty prominent now, it makes sense to have them on the Discovery Plus slate. And something cool that a lot of the other Discovery Plus channels are saying, like OWN and Cooking Channel and Food Network, the verticals are interested in working with each other. So they're very interested in like a TLC/OWN collaboration. That's something like Robin Lasker Johnson was saying. She works for OWN. I feel like Discovery Plus has got a lot to look out for with them.
Yeah, so obviously Discovery Plus is offering a lot of opportunity that expands beyond the linear channels that were found on Discovery. And I know, you have some exciting SVOD update in terms of YouTube.
Yeah, so I think YouTube is an increasingly really exciting place to look to, especially for UK producers. They're changing strategy where they've moved from YouTube originals that sat behind a paywall and leaned more towards scripted content, has now changed to a more diverse unscripted content strategy that sits in front of a paywall. And of course, you can still pay to have an ad-free version, but the main focus now is on big creators channels, which are available to everyone. YouTube sees 2 billion unique users every month and is rapidly increasing its number of original commissions each year. So I think that is a really exciting prospect. And Global Head of Original Programming, Suzanne Daniels, revealed that 83% of views for UK produced programs come from outside of the UK. So there's something that is clearly resonating across the world for UK based producers and creators, which is really nice to see. Their key target audience is the 18 to 34s, and for the majority of original commissions for them, it is vital that talent is at the forefront of the program, particularly when it comes to personality-led documentaries, which is one of their key pushes right now. Producers should always be looking at ways to amplify a creator in a way that they couldn't do on their own. What is nice, I think, as well, is that producers can come either with that personality or creator attached, if they have a good relationship with them, or they can pitch a format which could be then developed and they find the best voice and created to match with that idea. And Suzanne also mentioned that she wanted to see more pitches where the talent is really taken out of their comfort zones. So one example is Liza Koshy, and she had originally pitched a variety show, which is very much in her wheelhouse. It's what she does on her channel. But what ended up happening was the commission Liza on Demand, which is a scripted series, and they are actually kind of pushing away from scripted content now, but it's still a really good example of how they push creators into these new exciting spaces in a way that they never would have done without that help of a production company. And that's where producers kind of have that in. A really exciting aspect of YouTube is also the intimate way that it connects with audiences. I think with YouTube, it's really important to consider how you're going to use that platform, and there's a lot of fun ways to engage with audiences very directly that is completely different to a PSB. So they're commenting, the audiences are commenting on videos directly. They're often watching on their laptop. So they're just physically closer to the content that you have in mind. And I think they did a really fantastic job in 2020 when it came to responding to major events.
For sure. And I think what's really interesting about YouTube is it's almost not quite a democratization of talent, but you have this kind of almost open bank as a producer to look at all this talent, and it's not that a certain talent has to work in a specific way. You kind of have almost like a file of facts, back going very 90s in that analogy, but like a file of facts in front of you of people for your show. And I think that's a really exciting prospect for producers.
Yeah, and Luke Hyams had previously mentioned that he's basically interested in anyone that has over 2 million subscribers as a bit of a benchmark. So there are a lot of content creators out there that have over 2 million subscribers. I think that YouTube is a really exciting space at the moment, and I think that this is a really critical moment for them, and it's a really good time to get on board with them.
And another S1 that's been in the commissioning news recently is my favourite, Disney Plus. So rather excitingly, they announced a 10-strong European slate, which is kind of the first stuff that's coming out of Europe. Nothing UK-based yet, but the commissions did come from Diego Londono and Liam Keelan, who are both based in the London office, and we are told that a UK slate is kind of incoming. But what I think was really interesting about this kind of commission was that when we did our report working with the new streamers, we really analysed how much IP Disney Plus were using, and it was a lot. They were using a lot of existing shows that are being reworked. They were tapping into the Marvels, they were tapping into just across the board, everything kind of had some sort of tie-in, even vaguely. Basically, this slate has just kind of tilted the balance. I think it's exciting as for European producers, the fact that Europe is coming out with this kind of almost wholly original slate, and it's coming from Europe, and it shows how creative and how great European production companies are and they're able to play on that international level. And I think coming out with this slate is just a really positive thing for Disney Plus. I mean, a few of them are reboots, but they're not reboots of like big US IP. So they've got an Italian series called Boris, which is based on a former Fox series that aired in Italy called Boris, and it's kind of a continuation of that. Obviously, Fox was part of the Disney brand, and there's a lot of tie-ins kind of across Europe, so you can see how that one kind of works. But yeah, I think it's just a really interesting thing that Disney have relied on their existing IP for so long, well, for their first year of launch, and there's a really clear move away from that in this European slate, which I think is just going to be a good breath of fresh air, really, as well for the service, because there's only so much Marvel series you can rewatch. Although I am absolutely loving WandaVision, I think it's genius. It is a way into Marvel for people that aren't into Marvel, speaking from experience, because didn't think I was into Marvel, started watching WandaVision, absolutely hooked, and now I'm going back to the films to find out the backstories and find out why that character's like that and what happened. And like that's like proof that the IP thing really does work, that you get people on there with new things that use existing IP and then they're going to go into the back catalogue. However, fresh series are always going to be a great thing to have to counter that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that really opens the doors for people that don't own Disney IP, which is a lot of production companies. And I will say, as well, as a person who's only ever watched all the Marvel films while on a 12-hour plane, that I will also now be giving WandaVision a go.
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. I really do recommend it. And that, yeah, I really didn't think I was a Marvel movie person. And then literally it came out on Friday and I was like, it's here. I need to watch the next episode. And they're doing a weekly rollout with it as well. And I think that really works with the series, because it's very suspenseful of like what is happening. And B, just to get, I'm back on a Friday night on the Disney Plus platform. The episodes are only, I think, half an hour, 40 minutes or so. I finished that and then I'm on the Disney Plus platform and then I think to myself, yeah, maybe I'll watch an Avengers film now for my Friday night, and it's really doing its job. So I think WandaVision, genius.
They've got you.
They've really
I
hooked me.
feel like I should watch WandaVision now as well, and I'm not a Marvel fan, so maybe you've convinced me. But yeah, so obviously speaking of the IP though, that's something that HBO Max with their children's slate, they're really relying on as they build that up. So Tom Ashim, he's the president of Kids, Young Adults and Classics there, and he only joined last year. And yeah, his main aim is just to make HBO Max's children's slate like a gold mine of children's TV. And he's relying a lot on IP because he covers Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, TCM and Boomerang. And obviously, those, especially Cartoon Network and Boomerang, they've been around since at least 20 years. And, they'll have like the Looney Tunes and, Tom and Jerry Kids and Tiny Toons. And actually a revival of Tiny Toons should be in the works. And he's looking to make other new, fresh Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and all those kind of guys, new programs for this generation, which is I find quite interesting as well, because then as the parents of the children who will now be watching these shows, it's kind of nostalgic. So then you're kind of hooked in like, oh, we used to watch Johnny Bravo, and if there's going to be a Johnny Bravo, reboot in 2022, it works for both audiences in a way. And then again, like you were saying with WandaVision, people will watch that and then be interested in the whole Marvel universe. Kids are going to watch this, and then as they grow up, they're going to be like, oh, I didn't know that there's actually older Tom and Jerry shows. So, that I feel like that really works with that. And he's also actually overseeing the Harry Potter franchise as well. So I think we have to look out for some possible new original series for them. And Sesame Street is another brand that they've acquired as well. One of their shows that they've got going on is the Not Too Late show with Elmo. So it's basically like a talk show where Elmo's the host, and it's for kids. So I feel like that's actually going to be a very good show to watch.
I'm so here for that.
When HBO Max comes out here, I would be very much inclined to see, okay, what is Elmo talking about at 8 p.m. for the kids. So yeah, you can see like he's very much relying on what has worked for over 20, 30 years, what's going to work again for the next generation of kids. But he is also looking for original shows. One of them is called Craftopia, which is like a competition show. So he's looking for like high volume kind of shows, competition shows. The kids make something, they win a trophy, things like that. So he's not only looking after the kids and animation, he's also looking after like the tweens and the teenagers as well.
I really like that point about parents kind of wanting their children to watch similar shows to what they were watching. So the new series of the CBBC show My Mum, Tracy Beaker, I am now so desperate to watch it because I saw that clip of Tracy Beaker and oh my god, what is her name?
Justine, little words.
Justine. And it hit me so hard in all of my nostalgic roots that I was like, am I going to go back and watch this children's program now? Because I need to know what Tracy Beaker is up to.
I definitely watched that. All those 3 episodes. It was great. I feel like that show was literally for us. If you were, 23 plus, it wasn't really for the kids.
I know we missed it last episode, but I do want us to wrap up with our Greenlight of the week.
So going the complete opposite direction of fun nostalgia shows, my Greenlight of the week is a BBC Three documentary called Roman Kemp, Our Silent Emergency. So that's a working title at the moment, but it's produced by 2-4. And the documentary sees Roman Kemp examining mental health and suicide in young men following the kind of sudden and unexpected death of his best friend, Joe Lyons. I just think it's a great commission for BBC Three. It's such a prevalent subject for that 16 to 34 demographic. It's something that they will really be passionate about. It's something that is very often talked about in those circles. And I really hope that it can touch a lot of people and do some good. Jessie Nelson's Odd One Out, which is a documentary that was in a similar format, really resonated and was one of the best performing shows for BBC Three because it was so personal and it touched on a subject that really affects young people in particular, because it was about social media. And I think that this one has the similar potential to really reach out and do really well. It was greenlit by BBC Three controller Fiona Campbell and head of factual entertainment Catherine Catton, along with Max Gogarty. And if you were able to attend our factual entertainment panel late last year, Catherine Catton spoke to this, and it's really great to see more programs that lean into this strategy of personal one-off documentaries.
And how about you, Lizzie? What's your Greenlight of the week?
Okay, so my green light is a Netflix recent commission. It's called Wednesday. And I actually only watched the Addams Family movie last year. And I was actually like, this is actually quite hilarious. Why have I never watched this before? I thought, I don't like horror, so I assumed it was going to be scary. And then obviously it's very tongue-in-cheek. It's not scary at all.
Oh, it's fabulous.
And I really like Wednesday's character. She's very to the point, dry sense of humor. I love those kind of people. So so they've actually, I suppose it's a spin-off of the movie called Wednesday, and it's just following her, at the Nevermore Academy. She's a teenager, she's working out her psychic abilities and relationships, friendships, and everything that comes with it. It's quite an interesting move for Netflix, because originally they were focused on original Netflix shows, and then now they are moving into reboot, which is very interesting, like most other streamers are doing now, I suppose they're jumping on that bandwagon.
And my Greenlight of the week is actually, I want to say, an acquisition of the week. The absolutely record-breaking, only thing anyone can talk about documentary Framing Britney Spears. This was actually one episode in a series that was greenlit by FX and Hulu back in July 2020. The New York Times Presents was meant to be, single documentaries, a series of 10 single documentaries, 60 minutes or so, that covered a range of issues. And I think, it was billed as a series. But what was really interesting is that the single Britney Spears episode was acquired by Sky Documentaries. It must have been very quick, because I don't think anyone was I think they were necessarily, from what I can tell by looking at what's on Sky Docs at the minute, I don't think they were necessarily going to ever acquire that whole series. I don't know if there was any prior interest in that whole series as an acquisition, but they this documentary is making such a splash and people were very keen to get their hands on it, and Sky Documentaries team, the Sky team, did it. They did it fast. They've aired it within a couple of days of it airing in America, and I think it was just a really smart move that just showcases, Sky Documentaries has launched last year, had all of this, you've got Poppy Dixon as commissioner, they've just hired 2 more commissioners. I think getting the Framing Britney Spears acquisition is just like a big shout into the world that, Sky Documentaries means business. It's going to give you these premium, talked about, high quality documentaries, and it complements the commissioning strategy.
It is also an absolutely fantastic documentary.
Very good.
It is very
I
upsetting.
was quite angry when it finished. I was like, wow, this is actually crazy.
Yeah, I can't believe that happened to one poor woman, and it's still happening.
Mm-hmm.
Hashtag free Britney.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you so much for listening.
Yes, and if you are interested in coming on to the podcast to talk to us, please drop a line to the Broadcast Intel team at info@broadcastintel.com. That's info@broadcastintel.com.
And Commissioning Conversations will be back in 2 weeks' time as always. And in the meantime, the latest commissioning news and briefs can be found on broadcastintel.com.
So thanks again for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks for listening to Commissioning Conversations. We'll be releasing new episodes every other week, and you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and at broadcastintel.com.